morning. Good morning and welcome to Tuesday Transformation Tidbits with Patrice, where we're transforming the way you're thinking. We're empowering you to overcome obstacles and we're inspiring potential that lies on the inside of each and every one of us. I am so glad that you took the time out this morning to come and join us on another Tuesday transformation. For the month of November, for the month of December, I don't want to take us back. We're in the month of December, which is the last month in 2024. And in the month of December, we're making room for the shift that is coming. Now, for the whole month, we're going to be talking about various segments of making room for the shift. Our scripture for the month is the Lord said, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life, and I will advise you and watch over you. So as we're crossing over the bridge to get to 2025, God is going to guide us along the best pathway that's for our life. And we must know as we're crossing over the bridge, because we're almost at the bridge, as we're crossing over the bridge, we must realize that He will be advising us and He is the one that's going to be watching over us. So we have to pay attention to God in 2025, in the year that manifestation will come forth. We have to pay attention to God. When I think about that verse, I think about loving parents who keeps their eyes over their children, and rather our children are children, or our children are adults. As loving parents, we keep our eyes on our child. When our child is young and we see the child entering into some endangerment, what we do is we can see if they're crossing the street and a car is about to come. The parent normally calls to the child and tells the child what exactly to do when they're younger. As they get older and they become more mature, we still as parents have our eye on our children. And what we try to do as they're older, we try to advise them. We watch over them. Sometimes we tell them the pathway to take, and we just look to see if in fact they're going to take the pathway that we suggest for them to do. Just as the Father does to us, He's going to guide us along the pathway as we enter in 2025, and He's watching over you to perform that thing that He has given to you for 2025. He's watching over you to make sure that you're doing what He's called you to do in 2025. So for the month of December, we're making room for the shift. I need somebody to drop that in the comment this morning, to make room for the shift that's coming. Last week, we talked about making room. We talked about the point of we've got to clean out of some things. We have to close the door on some things that we have to do, and we have to make room for the very thing that God has called us to do. Today, we're going to be talking about examining ourselves for the things that are about to come. When we think about season change is both literally and it's figuratively. When we talk about season change in the literal sense, we're actually talking about the shifting of seasons. We're talking about fall. We're talking about spring. We're talking about summer, and we're talking about winter. When we look at it from a when we look at it from a figurative standpoint, it's figurative in our spiritual life. Oftentimes, we leave one season. When it ends, another season begins. As 2024 is coming to the end, it is the end of one season in our life, and we're about to embark upon another beginning of another season. When we look at seasons have some common themes in them. We look at season and we're looking at the point of introspection and preparation. We're looking at change and transition. We're looking at receiving from God, and we're looking at new opportunities and growth when we look at seasons. So how do we prepare for this season that we're about to enter to? We got to thrive in this season. We have to walk with God guidance in this season. We've got to be able to look upon the new phases of life that we're going to. And the only way that we can look what's ahead of us is that we got to close out what's behind us. There's no way that you can travel in a car if you're constantly looking behind you to see what's coming behind you, and you forget to look forward to see what's in front of you. In 2025, we're looking forward to the manifestation of what God said he was going to do in 2024. We're looking for greater things because we need God to perform that thing in the season coming ahead of us, so that we can be perfected for the kingdom's sake. I don't know what season we're in. I don't know what season you're currently coming out of, but I do know that it's time to make room for the shift. We've got to make room for the next shift that's coming in our life. That means that we've got to relinquish our control. A lot of times we can't be perfected in the new season that we're about to embark because we want to control the future. But our control comes from God. Everything that we do, we're in the master's hand. We're in the Father's hand. So we have to relinquish control when we close the door. We've got to tell God that everything about me, I give it unto you. I yield myself unto you. I don't have control in 2025. A lot of us controlled what we did in 2024. We heard the voice of the Lord. We seen God in things that he was doing in our lives, but we wanted God to do it as long as we had control of what was going on. But 2025 is the year that you have to relinquish your control. In order to make room for the shift, you have to count yourself as nothing. I don't mean you're nothing as an individual, but when it comes to the hand of God, you are not the authoritative figure. God is the authoritative figure in your life. So where he sends you, you've got to be willing to go. What he tells you to say, you've got to be willing to open your mouth and declare what it is that God is telling you to say. This is not a season or a year that we're going in that we can remain the same. This is a year that we've got to switch. We've got to change. We've got to move from where we are, and we've got to get in the way so that God can use us for his glory. So when we talk about being moved, when we talk about being used, and when we're talking about making room for the shift, we've got to examine our motives in what we're doing. So when we look at examine our motives, why are we doing what it is that we are doing? We got to observe why you're doing what it is that you're doing. Why do you do the things that you do? And not in words and not in actions, but what is your motive in doing what you do? What is your motive behind what you say and what you do? Many of us are doing the right things, but we're doing it for the wrong reasons. We need to check our motive. I heard someone say that a lot of times we just checking boxes in the things that we do. If we're just checking boxes for the sake of checking boxes, our motives may not be pure in what we do. So we might want to consider checking our motives. God isn't really concerned about the action or the act that we do, but his concern is about the intentions behind the act that we do. God is concerned about why do we do what it is that we're doing. Let's consider the season in which we're in now. This is a season of giving, and many of us are given in so many different ways. We're given to the community. We're doing this and we're doing that. But why are we doing these things? Are we doing these things to be seen? Are we doing these things because we can get a tax write-off? Are we doing these things to feel good about ourselves? Or are we doing these things to brag on social media about we gave to this particular community affair? We were at this particular community affair, volunteering and doing the things that we do. It's time for us to examine our motives and what it is that we're doing. When we begin to go in 2025, it's important to know what our intentions are. The Bible talks about that man looks on the outward, he looks on the outside, but God looks at our heart. And when God is looking at our heart, he's looking at our intentionality. He's looking at what we intend to do with what it is that he has given us to do. The heart is a matter. With the matters of the heart really matters in what we do in life. Check your heart. Examine your motives as we travel on this bridge, getting to 2025. We don't have long to reach the destination of 2025. God is going to perform and manifest the very thing that he has called you to do. But we've got to examine our motives of why we want what it is that we're asking from God. Why are we walking in the purpose that God has called for us? Like, yes, it's obedience that we do it. Yes, because God has a purpose and a plan for our life. But what is our motive in doing what it is that God has called for us? What is our motive in doing what it is, or asking God for the various things that we want in our life? He's looking at what prompts us to do what it is he's doing. He's looking at our motivation. Why are we going behind what it is we're going? We're preparing to make room for the shift. But in order to prepare to make room for this shift, we've got to check our motives. We got to ask ourselves some hard questions. This is the time for us to get ourselves together before we reach that destination. While we're on the bridge traveling to 2025, we got to get ourselves together, because when we embark in 2025, it's no time for us to start getting ourselves together. We've got to be ready to do. We've got to be ready to receive. We've got to be ready to move when God calls us to move. We got to be ready to speak those things that he calls for us to speak. So we got to ask ourselves some hard questions in our preparations. What are some of the hard questions that we can ask ourselves? Am I doing things to be recognized, seen, or to be loved by others? If no one expresses appreciation or rewards me for the things that I do, will I continue to do it, or will I just stop? Would I do whatever God asks me to do, even if it's minor, if it's low, or if it's insignificant on today? Would I still do it if no one sees me doing it? If I never get an applaud, if I never get recognized for doing, will I continue to do it? If criticisms and attacks are launched against me for what am I doing, will I quit? Or will I continue to do what it is? Am I always looking at me? Am I the center of what it is I'm doing? Am I the one that's trying to get out of the situation? Or is it other people? When you do anything, is our motives based on what is best for others? Or is our motives based primarily what is best for me? While we're on this bridge, we've got to begin to ask ourselves some hard questions on today. Why are you doing what it is that you're doing? Why are you asking God for the things that you're asking him for? What are your motives on today? We're crossing over. We're making room for the shift. We're closing doors. We're closing doors to open doors for new opportunities are coming our way. But why do we want these things that are coming our way? We live in a world that's very self-centered. Are we self-centered in what we're doing? Or we're only doing it to perform the things that are concerning us? Or are we doing it for the kingdom's sake? Do we have God in mind when we're doing these things? What are your motives in what you're doing? Examine your motives on today, because it matters when we get to 2025. If a drought comes in 2025 and things get really rough and tough for you, will you continue to hold on to God? Or will you do what everyone else is doing, trying to make a nickel in a dollar? What is your motives on today? If he calls you to cry loud and to spare not, if he calls you to be the voice for this land, for this nation, for this generation, will you cry loud? Will you hold up the banner of God, even if you're criticized? Will you still continue to do it? Will you launch out into the deep when God is begging or begging you to come towards him? Will you have faith to trust, to know that if I get out of this boat and if I go to God, I'm not going to fall? What are your motives on today? As we talk about crossing over for 2025, I want us on today to check our motive. I want us on today to start considering, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I moving in the manner in which I'm moving? If God has called me to do whatever God has called me to do, will I do it with joy? Will I do it with happiness? Will I do it because the Father has saw fit to choose me for this particular assignment? Or will I bail out because of the pressure that's coming my way? On this Tuesday, my Tuesday transformation tidbit for you is that your faith is going to be tested whenever we move to a different level, whenever we come out of one season going into the next season. Your faith shall be tested. Whatever God has granted for you, whatever he has promised for you, whatever he has purposed for you in 2025, I want you to know that while you're traveling on the bridge to get to 2025, your faith is going to be tested. But we've got to prepare. We've got to take an introspection of ourselves. Those are the keys that we're looking at on this Tuesday. Preparation and introspection. Those are the keys for this week that I want you to think about as you move along or continue to move along this week. Am I prepared for what is about to come? Have I checked my motive when I receive my blessings? Why do I want the blessing that God has for me? Preparation and introspection is key for today. Obstacles are going to come our way. But when we begin to know our motives and change our mindset, those mountains and those obstacles that arise in our life, they don't look as big or they don't look as difficult as they are. Change and transition, preparation and introspection are the things that we're going to be talking about as we're about to enter in 2025. On today, I want you to examine your motive. That's my Tuesday transformation tidbit for you. Examine yourself. As you walk along today, as you continue to walk along the week, stop and think, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Am I doing it self-centeredly? Or am I doing it to meet the need of someone else? And I'm doing it with joy. I'm doing it because God has blessed me and given me the capability to do it so I can bless someone else. Next week, we're coming back and we're going to be talking about change and transition. I'm going to be pulling you out of your comfort zone. How do I get out of my comfort zone? I have examined myself. I realized that I'm making room for the shift, but now I need to get out of the comfort zone. I can need to get out of the things that I'm normally doing and move into the realm of what God has for me. As we talked about for the month of December, we're moving and we're shifting into a new realm of God. But we're also giving away a book in the month of December. I don't know. I don't know if you've seen the advertisement, but the Daughter of Destinies, along with Teardrops, Liquid Language of the Heart, will be hosting a book club in 2025. More details are going to be coming in the next week, telling you the who, what, where, and how for the book club for 2025. The book is entitled, If Not You, Then Who? And it's by Matthew and Khadijah Wicker. And on today, we're going to be giving out another book. Last week, we gave out a book. And as we already know, our winner was Sister Shirley Lane, who's on the line this morning. So we say, yeah. Congratulations to you. On today, we're going to be giving out another book. And for you, I want you to know how you get a book is that you have to watch our segments on Monday morning at 6 a.m. And on Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. And what we do is every name that we see comes about, we put you on the book wheel. We put every name on the book wheel, and then we spin the wheel. And when we spin the wheel, whatever name comes up, that is the winner of the book for the book club. I want you to have an amazing day on today, and I want you to remember to examine your motives on today. Shalom.